This is Wings on the Air.
Welcome to Wings on the Air. I'm so happy to have you with us here today. My name is Ann Edenfield-Sweet. I'm the Executive Director and founder of Wings for Life International. And today we have a really awesome motivational speaker here, Jerome Wade, with us. And I am so excited because he's with Epic Advantage. And Jerome, I've always wanted to ask you even about that name. Tell us about the name. How in the world did you come up with that name?
First of all, let me just say I'm honored to be with you on this program today. I'm so excited about some of the content and what we're going to be talking about because I know the dialogue you and I are going to have is going to be some transformational information, some truths here that will transform into life change, because that's really the purpose of Epic. So I started Epic Global Epic Advantage about 5.5 years ago now, and it was all behind the vision of really helping people create the life that they really want. So I'm snowboarding with a friend of mine. We're in southern Colorado, Wolf Creek, just got 4 feet of snow.
Oh my goodness.
We're at the top of the mountain. We're about to drop off this, what's called Alberta's face. So it's a real steep face and just nothing but powder. And this guy from California comes up, snowboards next to us, and he goes in his best California voice. He goes, "Dude, this is epic." And at that moment I went, that's what I'm going to name my company. I'm an adventure junkie and I'm an adrenaline junkie. So I've done adventures all over the world, but there was something that just resonated with me. But most what resonated with me behind the word epic, and that is about helping people create intentional lives, right? It should be an extraordinary life. Right? Life doesn't have to be lame and mundane, which it is for so many people.
Yes.
And it's unnecessary, right? We were given the opportunity through life to live the most extraordinary life. The problem is, the challenge for most of us is that we don't know the path to get there. We have dreams, we have hopes, ambitions, desires, prayers that we want to see fulfilled in our life. But the challenge is, well, then how do I create that life? And so that's what I've spent the last 5.5 years doing. Of course, I've spent 30 years really doing it in life and leadership development, whether that's in faith-based nonprofit organizations or for-profit companies. That's what I've spent my entire life doing, is helping people find a better way to create the life they really want. And so that's the heart behind Epic.
Wow. Oh, I'm so excited to hear that, because you always talk about an extraordinary life.
Yeah.
I mean, what does it take to have this extraordinary life?
Well, the first reality is this. You've got to, and I'm going to break it down into its irreducible minimum.
Okay.
When I have this conversation, whether it's one-on-one or I'm training a team or I'm speaking to a large organization, a big conference, whatever it might be, I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to strip this down and make it as simple as I possibly can. The problem is, it's going to seem so simple that you'll disbelieve the process, right? So those of you watching right now, don't disbelieve what I'm about to say, because this is the simple fact. This is the equation of creating an extraordinary life. So the first step that you have to take in this is really answering what seems to be a simple question, but it's actually a very complicated question. And that question is this: what do you want? So when I've sat down with executives, when I've sat down with just average Joes, maybe back in the day when my kids were playing soccer, we'd just be sitting at a soccer game and I'd be talking to the guy or gal next to us, and I'd say, hey, what's your dream? What do you want? And many times, if not most, it was followed by silence. Well, I don't know. And so answering that question is the most important question of life.
You know, I totally agree with you. When I talk about jobs, and we work with families or inmates coming out of prison, we call them returning citizens.
Yeah.
And I say to them, what are you going to do with your life?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, get a job.
Right.
What job? What do you want to do?
Right.
Well, anything. I said, oh, that's the worst answer ever.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. What do you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
That is the most important thing.
Right.
And so, okay, so that's your key.
So you've got to start right there. You've got
to
build from that foundation.
Yeah.
But too many people answer the question. When they start answering it, they answer it too generically. Right, so you have to go from general answers to very specific to explicit answers. This is specifically, precisely what I want. So if I asked you today, Ann, what do you want? And you said, well, I want to be happy. Cool. Well, I want to be healthy. Cool. And I want to have fun. Oh, that's great. I want all three of those. But the problem is they're generic.
Right.
Very general answers. So then we have to figure out, well, Ann, what does it mean to you to be happy? So now we start getting into deeper layers, but all we're doing is refining the answer that's really in our heart, right? So answering the question is really just trying to mine out what's in the depths of our heart, what's in the depths of our soul. This is what I want. And when you go through the process, it's going to be cloudy for a second. It's going to be cloudy for a day or two, or maybe even a few weeks while you walk through this, because it's the most complicated question ever. What do I want? And I find myself now with current circumstances that we're having to deal with in our business. What do I want? And until we know exactly what we want, we will never be able to create it.
And don't you think that people find barriers?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
well, I'd like to do this, but I can't move.
Yeah.
Or, well, I can't get married right now because of this. Or
Yes.
I can't do this because of that. I don't have education, so I can't do this.
You've
So
already
talk about
defeated the dream.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
Talk about
so the
that.
first thing, and when you're answering that question, you brought up such an insightful point there. When you're answering that question, what is it that I want? Don't answer how. Don't answer the how questions. It's going to be the yeah, but. Well, listen, this is what I want. Let's say it's some guy, one of my life dreams is to live on the back of, have my office on the back of a sailboat and sail the world, right? Do business from the back of a sailboat. That's going to happen someday. Hopefully sooner than later, that's going to happen someday. The problem is, if I would have said, well, how do I do that first?
Right.
I would never do it. Because once you start, the dream has to be bigger than you. The life you want, an extraordinary life, is not a small life. Right? An extraordinary life is an extraordinary life of impact and influence, an extraordinary life of significance, and an extraordinary life of meaning. But if we say, well, this is what I want, yeah, but, we immediately kill the dream. We immediately defeat the dream. So the how questions are the last questions we answer, right? Because the second part of this is, the first question, very simple yet complicated, is what do I want? The second question then is this: what's going to keep me from it? Now, this is not so much the how question, because now, as we're just searching our heart and our soul on what is the real dream, what's resonating, what's my destiny, what is the meaning or purpose of my life, then we have to look at those inhibitors. And this is where so many people are limiting their life because of the internal realities, right? We call them limiting beliefs. We call them false assumptions. We call them lies that we've been told all of our life. And for so many people that have derailed their life, maybe they've derailed a marriage, they've derailed a business, they've derailed a friendship, they derailed their character, they derailed opportunities. And for some people, it feels like, Groundhog Day. It just keeps happening, and it's a broken record. How come I keep doing this? And how come this keeps happening to me? Because you haven't addressed the second issue here, right? The second question is what are the limitations or the barriers that we must overcome?
And don't you think so many people have fear about this?
100%.
They're so, okay.
Yeah.
Because I think, I could dream really big, but I'm so afraid. I can't.
Well,
I can't
let's
go to
talk
school.
about
I can't.
that.
Yeah,
So-
talk about some of the fears that people have.
This can be influenced by a number of things, how people were raised, right? For a lot of people, it's the inner voices. My dad was the most significant influence in my life, Raymond Wade. He was my best friend until he died 23 years ago. I'm his adopted son. And back in the day in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we are sitting, this is the mid-70s, we're in the backyard and in the swing under a cottonwood tree. Right, so Albuquerque wasn't the size of city back then as it is now. You had a crystal clear view of the sky at night, and we'd watch the satellites fly by. And many nights, my dad would ask the question. He said, "Son," he said, "if we win the Ed McMahon Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, the $1 million, Ed McMahon's going to bring a check to our
Right
door
to
for
the
$1
door.
million bucks. What are we going to do with it?" And so my dad started instilling in me a voice of a dreamer, right? But it was really the voice of my father that was calling things out of me, right? It was really his voice that started to awaken things that now make a difference for companies, for individuals, for organizations, because what he instilled in me back then was, how do I hear the right voice? And so my dad would, we start answering the question, well, this is what I want, Dad, and I want to be, from the youngest of age, I can remember I wanted to be an adventurer. I had my G.I. Joe, right? And G.I. Joe he was all man, he was an adventure guy, he did crazy cool things, and that's what I wanted to be from just a kid. And then my dad would dream with me. And so, but I had the fortune of being raised by a father who spoke well into my life, who spoke into my soul. Unfortunately, most of society didn't have that.
That's correct.
They had a father telling them they were worthless.
Yes.
They had a mother telling them you'll never measure up.
Yep.
They meant well. They thought they were saying something that was going to motivate them.
Trying to motivate them.
Some of them didn't mean so well.
Yeah.
Some of them meant to cause harm because of their own childhood issues. But I think in most cases, mom and dad meant well. They just practiced poorly, right? They just executed poorly. And so we've got to look at those are the real limiters. So when somebody says, well, yeah, I want an office on the back of a subway, well, there's a price tag attached to that. There's several price tags attached to that. And if I just said, how financially do I afford that? That's not the right question, right? Because the path to true success, the path even to financial freedom, the path to relational success, the path to personal success is dealing with the inner voices that will limit us every single day until we conquer them, until we defeat them, until we unleash those that have held us back.
And so many people, I think that at least I work with, the past, they let their past. I'm a returning citizen.
Yep.
I'm an ex-con. I'm a former prisoner.
Yep.
I'm a this, I'm a that, and they let their past define them.
Yeah.
Talk about that. How do you encourage people to get past that?
So powerful right there, Ann, because you're nailing the real issue is that so many of us are defined by the past instead of the vision of the future life that we want. Right, so we have to literally, when we start answering that question, what do I want? Right, we have to look at the second question, what limiters must I dominate or obliterate from my life? Because those are the ones that are going to keep us from actually getting what we want. It's not going to be because of somebody else. It's not going to be because of economy. It's not going to be because of global pandemic. It's not going to be because of opportunity or lack of opportunity. It's going to be because of one thing, what you have allowed yourself to believe, what voices you hear. So we have to start looking at our life differently. When we identify those sources of negative influence, those negative energy sources that come into our life that destroy us, derail us, disrupt our lives, we have to be the one that initiates the positive voice, the right voice.
So how do you teach people to do that? I mean, how if we've got somebody coming out of prison and they feel like, boy, I can't do anything. How are you going to teach them to get past that and to start challenging them to accomplish the goals that they really want?
Yeah, let's talk about the power of words.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So one, potentially, I mean, this isn't always the case, but it is mostly the case. The reality is you had words spoken over you. Words spoken over you by a judge.
Yep.
Words spoken over you by a teacher, a parent, an aunt and uncle, a friend, a family member, whoever, society, labeled you. They diminished you. They shrunk you. They demeaned you. They devalued you. They demoralized you. So those are words that are spoken over you. Guess what? The most powerful words are not the words that comes out of somebody else's mouth. The most powerful words that you need to hear are the words you speak over your own life. Right? So when we say, I am not enough, we are prophesying failure for the rest of our life. Because we begin to believe I am not enough. When we say this, I am not worthy. It's a very destructive statement. What do you mean you're not worthy? Who's worthy? Right? We are all human beings of immense value, so we are all worthy. Right? So then we have to look at other things. I'm not enough. I'll never make it. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. I'm too whatever. And so now the power of words have to change. Now it has to become the voices that we speak over our life. So one practical way to do this, and I have to do this in my own life, the fact that I've done this kind of work for 30 years now doesn't make me exempt from dealing with the daily struggles myself.
Sure.
So I have to start my days with the right affirmations, personal affirmations. This has nothing to do about ego, so let me relax the tension somebody might be feeling right now as they're listening to this. Oh, Jerome's just talking about, somebody on an ego trip, right? Or somebody fueling arrogance. That's not at all what I'm talking about. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, all right? Humility is seeing the value of everyone you associate with and not elevating your value above others. right?
love
so
that. Yes.
it's not thinking less
Yeah.
of yourself.
Yeah.
So now let's have the right definition of humility. But so when I start my affirmations in the morning, I will say this, Jerome, today is going to be an amazing day, right? You will make choices today. I'm speaking to myself, Jerome, you will make choices today that will align with the life that you want. Right? That's probably the next thing we need to talk about is choices. But let's talk about dealing with the inner issues, right?
Okay.
This is how we begin to let the power of words change our life. So now I'm speaking the right words over me. Jerome, you are capable to handle anything that is thrown at you today. Any challenge, you are big enough. Any problem, you are strong enough. Any issue, you are smart enough. Because we are. We'll find a way, we'll figure it out, and we'll get there, we'll create the success that we want.
It's true.
Yeah.
But we have to believe that. And I love that. So you start every morning with those affirmations.
I have to.
Yeah.
I have to. Because if I don't, the self-defeating, limiting beliefs are going to still whisper at me, Jerome, you're not worthy, you're not capable, you're not enough.
So do you encourage people put that in writing? I mean, you always hear about put it on your mirror, and so the first thing you look at. So repeat some of those affirmations, because I love those.
So you can say things like this.
Yes.
I am enough.
Okay.
I have what it takes. If I fail today, it does not define me.
I love that.
I still fail.
Yes.
I try things in business, I try things in life, and sometimes they don't work out. And so I don't attach meaning to failure. Because I failed, I'm not a failure, right? I am actually the next step closer to success.
To success, yes.
Right? So yes, I would write them down. I would put them anywhere that you have to. But I think it's very important to get into a place of prayer and meditation to where you're centered and you are speaking to your soul. And so as you begin to speak to yourself, Jerome, you are capable. You are strong enough. You are smart enough. Whatever comes today, you will overcome it. You will get through it, right? Whatever challenge you face is not greater than your abilities. So there I find the strength. I'm now reprogramming with the positive words that the negative words of my past, whoever it was that said whatever it is that they said over me, I'm not believing their story anymore. Because first of all, and I don't like where their story gets me. It gets me nowhere.
Yep.
It gets me into nothing but more trouble, more pain, more stress, more anxiety, more worry, more fear. So why would I keep listening to those voices? That's the rear view mirror of our past. But let's look through the windshield of the future instead of focusing on the small. And by the way, in the scope of our life, that rear view mirror is very small. The rest of our life is massive in opportunity, right? So that's what we need to be focusing on, is looking through that front windshield, and that's where the choices come.
I love that.
Right? So we have to know what we want.
Agree.
We have to identify the limiting beliefs that are going to keep us from getting what we want. Then we have to align choices. So if I have a vision of my greater self, right? This is my greater self that is centered, my greater self that is walking in strength, that is making the impact, the influence in the world that I want and that I dream, that I've already specified. Now I am going to start making choices that align with the life that I'm creating. So for example, if somebody's trying to lose weight, let's just use something that all of us try to do.
Yeah.
And so is this a good choice or a bad choice? If I'm trying to create a life of fitness and a nutritional life, if I go to McDonald's and get a hamburger and a sausage McMuffin, did I make the right choice to align with the goals that I have?
Of losing weight.
Right.
Yeah, they're very practical.
That's a bad choice.
But
it's
practical.
that simple.
It is that simple.
It's that
really,
simple.
isn't it?
But we have to overcome the desire and the temptation of those things that we want.
Yeah.
But we've got to give up what we love or what we enjoy for something we love even more. Right?
So maybe somebody that just, oh boy, I don't know what to do today, so I'm just going to turn that TV on and I'm going to play some games and I'm just going to text all day long and just sit here with my phone. What kind of advice do you have for somebody that, okay, now they've told themselves early in the morning, okay, I can be these things, this is what I want to do. But how do they put it in motion? How do you encourage people to do that? Now, you're talking about a simple thing like losing weight, making your choice.
Sure.
But a career choice, give some examples.
It's the same process we're going through. If you're trying to career transition, if you're trying to start a new life, know what you want, identify what's going to limit you. Now we've got to make choices that align. It's all about alignment at that point. right? So that means every day I have to make decisions. One decision every day is to start your day with prayer and meditation, right? Personal affirmations. Start your day that way so that you get your mindset, you get on the right track mentally. So that now I've started my day, but I think a second practice that is very important is that you put your intentions forward, right? This is what I intend to do today. So with Monday, I am going to invest my life this way. So if somebody's looking for a new career, they might spend a couple of hours on Monday morning looking at career options that really excite them, right? They could be looking for a job, or maybe they want to start their own business, or whatever it is that they have. But they spend a couple of hours just maybe educating themselves or learning and exploring what's out there. But they still have to align every decision, every choice throughout the day, right? So it's not just about 1 hour out of the day or 2 hours. It's about how do I structure my life now, choices made every day to get to the outcome that I really want.
Now, that is so important. And I know I've heard a lot of people say, and start writing those things down.
Absolutely.
Write down those goals. What have you accomplished today? What do you want to do tomorrow?
Yeah.
So you could start, clicking away at some of those little obstacles that you have.
Yeah.
You're building like a new career. You're doing that research on the internet. You're finding out, okay, is that where you want to go, or what you?
Well, and here's something else as we talk through this, Ann, that I think is important too, is give yourself grace and cut yourself some slack.
I think that's very important.
Right, because we want to hurry up and get there. And I am 30, it's taken me 30 years to create the success that I have now, right? I wanted it 30 years ago, right? I wanted it yesterday, but it's now coming today. But I've got a bigger vision for my future, and I have to cut myself some slack, give myself some grace, because I'm going to fumble the ball a little bit as I get there, as I navigate this, because it isn't an equation. 1 + 1 does not equal 2 when you're trying to create the life that you want. And so you have to really give yourself grace, be compassionate, self-compassionate. Gosh, I think another powerful word, we don't have enough time to talk about it today, but it's self-love. You got to love yourself, right? This is not ego and arrogance. This is about how do I love and care for me, and part of that is grace, mercy, and compassion for myself, because I can be the most judgmental person towards myself, and that doesn't help you get the dreams that you want. So.
Yeah, I really love that, because you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And then I think when you were talking about sharing your vision and your dream, I think it really helps to share that with your loved ones and with people around you, because then they can be an encouragement. Well, what have you done today? Well, what else would you suggest? Oh,
yeah. Well, okay, so if we go back to some of the voices, because this is, again, we could do an entire show on just the voices again, but you're going to have your doubters. You're going to have your dousers, right? Those are people that are going to create doubt and people that are going to douse your dreams. But then you've got to find the people that are the dream givers, right? So those are the voices that you want to share with. So you really do need to be careful who you share your vision with.
Well, and I'm working with prisoners and their families, and you don't go back to the same environment. You surround yourself with positive people, or the people that you want to look up to, and you want to be around, and you want to be like them someday. So what about mentors and things like that?
Well, I'm a raving fan of having mentors. I mean, I'm an executive coach myself. I have coaching programs for people, for organizations, but for me, I have to have a consistent, continual feed of the right voices. So there's been mentors in my life that came through reading scripture. There's been mentors in my life that came through reading books. That's one reason I wrote this book, Unleashed, is because it is a coaching tool. It's a mentorship tool. Not everybody can have that amount of time, and I have a limited time, to spend with people, but I can give a book and get a book out into every hand. Right, and you can be mentored and learn how to break through these barriers, how to overcome these limitations that you've had, how to create the life you really want. So I think reading, listening, and hearing in today's digital age, anything you need is free on YouTube today. Anything you need is free. Just Google it. If you're struggling with how do I have a better sex life, Google it. Be careful with that. How do I have a better marriage? How do I become a better parent? How do I become better at communication? Google it. Yeah. You've got it's called Google University that's out there today, and it's free. You don't have to pay for any of that. Yeah. Right? So YouTube videos are huge, and I think today given current circumstances in our world, the video elements of life are just going to go exponential. This is going to be an accelerator for us.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, I'm really excited about your book.
Yeah.
Because tell us more about your book and why you wrote it, and I'm sure these truths that you've been talking about today are in that book.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But tell me about the book. Why did you choose to write this book? I know you said now you can put your words out there.
I wanted to get it into more people's hands, and I think for me too, it was part of my transformational process is to put it on paper. I still go back and reference my own book, and sometimes this is the honest God truth. I'm reading this, I'm going, I don't know if am I really the guy who wrote this? I did. I wrote every word of that. That's nobody else wrote this. I wrote every single word in that book, and all I did is I just shared my struggle, and I shared my journey, and I shared my faults, and I shared my failures, and I'm very transparent. I'm not going to BS people into thinking that I've got everything together, because I don't. I still have life to deal with, and that's what that book really does. It helps you unleash those parts of your life that you've been so leashed to.
Okay, so that's the reason for the title, Unleashed.
Unleashed, yeah.
Okay, and so what are some of your 3 top ways to unleash things? I mean, or any points that you'd like to highlight from that book?
Yeah. Well, we've definitely talked about a couple of them already that I think are very important. There's a couple of years ago, my wife were in Italy. We were celebrating our 25-year anniversary. We went to the Accademia della Galleria in Florence, right? And this is where the statue of David is.
I've been there.
Michelangelo's,
Isn't that, oh my gosh.
Work, right?
Yep.
It's everything of Michelangelo, and it's just stellar. What's amazing is just before you get to the Michelangelo statue, you get to what's called the Michelangelo prisoners. And these are statues that are half done. Mm-hmm. He chiseled them out but didn't finish them. And so we have the statue of David, and then we have David's prisoners here. And my favorite was Atlas, because Atlas is in this form here, and you can almost see the anguish in his face, right? As if he knows he's a prisoner, because he cannot do anything to unleash himself. What I would say for those of you that are at that place where you might feel that you are stuck in this place, that it's half done. You know there's so much more. You want so much more. You deserve so much more. Life can be so much more. Your life can truly be epic, but you're going to have to take the chisel, and you're going to have to take the hammer, and you're going to have to do the work, right?
I love that.
You're going to have to do the work of finding out what you want, identifying those limitations, making the right choices that align your behavior with the life you are trying to create. And so I just want to leave you with that. And the book is available on Amazon. Just search for Jerome Wade Unleashed, and you'll find it on Amazon.com.
Okay, Jerome, thank you so much. This has been absolutely wonderful. Our guest today has been Jerome Wade. Epic Advantage, wow. We are loving all of this. And hope you have found this inspirational. We have been sponsored today by Rainstar Capital Group. Regional Director Bob Moore, you can reach him at 505-331-4246. Go to our website, wingsforlifeinternational.org. Thanks for being with us today.
Wings on the Air is sponsored by Rainstar Capital Group.